Liz. How are you this morning?
Hello, Carolyn. I'm I'm excellent. Nice to see you. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm great. It's May in Ontario. The leaves are coming out. It's warm. The window's open. It doesn't get better. And I'm talking to you, and this is my job. Doesn't get better than that.
Aw. Yeah, I love springtime too. It's new beginnings and blossoms and sweet, sweet air. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And your spring starts earlier than our spring, doesn't it? In
It
BC?
does. Yeah, we're in full bloom. All the leaves, 100% out on the trees. And my lilac is glorious. And I don't know the names of all the other plants, but I have
Oh.
lots of beautiful colors.
Oh, so nice. So nice. Oh, love it. So this is the last chapter of the book. It's titled Victimtown versus Freedomville. And I think it's a great title for the close of this chapter of our podcast series, really. Um, you open this chapter, a friend was struggling and it must have triggered you or something, but you've got a hilarious story and you're going to recount it, not all the details. The reader's got to get the book on Audible or in Indigo, Amazon, to find out all the details. But what the heck was going on that led to the weed story, the weed cookie story? And share with me.
Well, not going to get into the nitty-gritty of the details for privacy reasons of what brought me there, but
Just
suffice
generally.
it to say that somebody I knew was really, really struggling, and I was worried. I was worried and I was catastrophizing, and I was thinking worse outcomes and all of those things. And I was not in a good place. And I just wanted to numb. I just wanted to not have to think about it, right? So I contemplated going to the store to get a bottle of wine. It had been a few years or a couple of years, I can't remember at that time, that I hadn't had a drink, and I was like, oh, don't. I knew that wasn't really the answer. Didn't really want to do that. Um, uh, I mean, there were other choices in hindsight now that I can think of would have been far more healthier. But I didn't pause long enough, Carolyn, and I denied going to get the drink, but then I was like, wait a second. I've got some frozen weed cookies that somebody gave me like last year. And I was like, oh yeah. So I busted those out and trying to remember how strong they were. I mean, this is uh, not done pharmaceutically, not done under any kind of regulations or government guidelines. This is somebody mashing up some pot and making it into butter and then throwing it into a cookie batch, right? So you don't know what you're going to get. And and
We will
I
caveat, we will caveat by saying weed is legal in Canada. So Liz is not doing anything illegal. It's legal.
Yes, yes, it is. And so I had a bite, and then I thought, you know what? I'm having another bite, and then I ate the whole cookie, and and then it all unfolded because once you've eaten the cookie, you can't uneat the cookie. Well, I suppose you can, but I wasn't gonna do,
Not with weed.
do that, right? And it was a funny, not funny 5 hours that ensued. But the moral of the story, the Victimtown versus Freedomville, is I consciously chose Victimtown. I mean, I paused long enough to deny the wine, but I chose that. And I wasn't ready to face the pain of what I felt at the time was imminent with this person that I loved very, very much. And so I hung out in denial trails big time. And then the next day, of course, I'd landed in the Guilt and Shame Cafe because I'm like, oh my God, here I am, right? Written a book about this shit. And what do? I choose Victimtown, and then I stay there. And a really good friend of mine, the next day, as I was still half stoned, lying on the couch, like almost 24 hours later, still non-functioning, really, um, we got laughing, and she called me out on it in a way that I'm hoping people can embrace one day, using the language of the places in Victimtown. And she said, "Listen, I see what you did, and you were on the trails all night, hiking on the denial trails, and then you ate breakfast in the Guilt and Shame Cafe. And is that really where you want to spend the rest of the day?" And I was like, "Oh, you're right." So I snapped myself out of it and practiced a bunch of self-care, went out and took a walk, tried to clear my head, drank a lot of water, had some healthy food, and gave myself permission and the grace to accomplish absolutely nothing that entire day. And woke up the next morning and had a fresh start.
Lady, you just said about 10 things I want to address right now. And I've written two down, but the fact that you gave yourself permission to do quote unquote absolutely nothing, which was the work. You were working, you were
Yeah.
practicing. That was the biggest thing that you could have done in that moment, was absolutely nothing, and caring for yourself and choosing to stop the flow of water to some extent, right? That
Yep.
was huge. The fact
Oh,
that you
thank
had the
you.
awareness that you were in the guilt and shame, or what, all the different places, the fact that you called a friend and you were willing to listen, the fact that all of that happened way faster than it would have back in 2020, like, you moved through it more quickly. And that's so freaking massive. And I think it's important for the audience to know that this work sometimes looks like nothing. Like, I said to my husband, I've been doing like really deep inner work really hard for 4 years, and it looks like I'm doing nothing. And my energy worker had told me once, just take baby steps and you will leapfrog forward. And it feels so imperceptible at times, and it looks like it's nothing, but it really is something really important.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. And so that's the thing about life, right? We can't ever stop shit from happening. And if we can become incrementally just a little bit better at handling it than the last time, that's huge progress, and it will all add up. And it's the practice that allows us to get get faster, get better, get stronger with our responses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thought I had was, you said this in our last episode that we filmed. You said people do the best they can with the skills that they have at the time. And even though you wrote the book, even though you've got the intrinsic courage definition and all that, in that moment, that's what you needed to do. And to allow yourself permission to do it and move through it, you've got to keep practicing it. And how are you going to be able to know you're getting better unless you're given opportunities to practice? Oh, shoot, I'm in Victimtown. I'm going to stay 6 hours instead of 12 hours, or 3 hours
Or
instead of
6 months or six
it's 6 months.
years.
Exactly. Exactly,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's all we can do. It's not necessarily a bad thing
Mhm.
to land in Victim Town for a short time. Of course, the goal is to be there for the least amount of time possible. But depending on what's happened, we might need a little bit of time to gather our wits or some support or strategies before we can leave. And the awareness of knowing that that's where you are is the most important first step, right? You can't
Mhm.
make a change or get out if you don't know first exactly where you are. So,
Absolutely. And I think that's, you're just hit the nail on the head. Like, I actually said that awareness of choice. Maybe I'd already said it earlier, but like, yeah. And you have this quote. It says, it takes heart voice power and intrinsic courage to live in Freedomville. You were born with both.
yeah.
Right? You can do this. And I love that you touch on that, because you keep reminding the reader you have it within you, kind of like Wizard of Oz. You've had it all along.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, that is a huge message. Do you want to speak about the heart voice power? When you're in victim town, how do we get that heart voice power to start, you know?
Well, the awareness is the first step, is to realize where we are, and the reassurance that every single human has what it takes to to get out of there. And we're backing up now into some of the other previous chapters that provide some strategies and suggestions for increasing our heart voice power. And hopefully by the time the reader is here and all, being sent out on their way out into the world again, that they will have adopted some of those things that they found are a unique fit for them. Because what fits and helps one person stay out of victim town or get out quicker is not necessarily what's going to work for someone else. We're all so very different.
Mhm.
And it's that in and of itself too is a learning process. And what works for ourselves in certain situations might not work in other situations, depending on which place we've landed in victim town. So, we keep learning. We keep gathering more intel, and we keep trusting that even those experiences where we do spend some time at one of the places in victim town, that too is designed for our highest and best good. It could be a practice opportunity of a boundary. It could be to rethink our current path, or there's an infinity, endless number of reasons for people, but to just trust in all outcomes.
Trust in all outcomes. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that last episode, but we never really got to it. Can you touch on that just a little bit more about trusting the outcomes? Because it's really hard sometimes, I know some of the beliefs that I have is that, you sort of take the step and the universe will deliver it to you. And that's trusting the outcome. But that's a hard thing to do, to trust that it will work out. How have you practiced that? Because you are very good at taking leaps of faith. Very good. You're such a good example.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, it's taught me, leaning into it it allows me to not worry about anything. I've learned that a lot of the things I used to worry about, in hindsight, I could see that that was a total waste of time. It never even came close to unfolding in that direction. And that's the thing, we don't know what direction anything is going to take us. And it's just as possible that it's going to result in something far more fabulous and awesome, in the true meaning of awe, inspiring experience for us, as it is something detrimental, and so we'll deal with it when it happens.
I know,
You
isn't
know,
it the funniest thing is the biggest issues in my life, like the trauma, not the traumas, how do I say this? Like with my kids or whatever, something that they throws me for a loop. And my daughter had a traumatic leg injury, or, those kinds of things. I could never have worried enough to prepare for something like that. But when we were in it, it was fine. Like we were actually very well taken care of. So the things that you worry about, like, I don't know, the big things, I just seem to be able to, those are almost the easier ones. You know what I mean?
I know,
Yep.
without it sounding trite, because there's some really
True.
hard experiences that people literally suffer through. And it sounds trite to say, well, you're gonna find something good in it, find the lesson in it. Because it's not,
Oh,
it's
wait,
not that
I need to
easy.
interrupt you for a second though,
Yeah.
because it is, it has been, a practice and like blood, sweat, and tears that I can say it in a way that it sounds so trite. I can say it because I choose to see things not through the eyes of suffering. I just want to be very
Right.
clear with that,
Yes.
because I know that somebody that hasn't done the practice will say, well, easy for you to say blah, blah, blah. I was that person a number of years ago. I was that person. I had no power at all. And it takes tremendous power to be able to say something like that. So like, I
Yes.
just want to be, for me, really clear. Nobody has to agree with me. You don't have to agree with me or anything else.
No, I
But
do
I
agree with
say it
you.
with such confidence because I don't mean it from a triteness, because I've worked my ass off to be where I am in this headspace. And so have you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes.
And to a lot of the listeners, though, if they haven't yet increased their heart voice power to a certain level that will allow them to even embrace the possibility of that, So there's stages, right?
Yeah.
The possibility of that, and then the experiencing, and then the knowing, and then the firmly believing and trusting, right?
Yes.
So I would suggest that if the best that someone can do along those lines is to have a mindset to be open to the possibilities, to just not jump to all the negative conclusions, to just be open, not necessarily fully trusting, but be open to it. Right?
Yeah,
It takes practice.
and this is why your book is absolutely perfect. Just, for anyone really, but for people that are just starting to consider like what next? How do I do this? Like Liz's book is really a how to, let me walk you through where I started, and giving you so many great tools to help you through that, right? Like, yeah, I think
Thank you.
that's what this book does.
That's
Like,
high praise. And when I started, I mean, I didn't believe my life was worth living.
nor,
That's
nor did
how
I, nor did I. Like
that's how
I wanted to
bad
end
my
my
life
life,
was.
as did
Yeah.
you. So that's
Yeah.
why we don't say it with triteness, because we could
Yeah.
have just killed ourselves and we didn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and you know what? If someone does kill themselves, that's okay too. It's not having the judgment on anything, but you and I really have spent a lot of time and intention developing our awareness and developing these habits, and experiencing it, and going back to Victimtown and coming back out to Freedomville, back and forth, right? And
And that's the
we'll
journey
try,
of life. And I
yeah,
think that, I mean, when you brought up judgment, if I were to name, and maybe it's not the one, but it's certainly in the top three, the biggest challenges of doing this work, it's to overcome judgment about ourselves, about the world, about situations, about everything. We are, we've been conditioned to judge everything.
okay,
And it's
I love
not
this.
helpful. It's not helpful in any way, shape, or form, in any situation or experience whatsoever.
Yeah,
When we can get to the place of relaxing and just being here, just being right here, right now, then that's Freedomville.
I love that, because you know that in the last 5 months, that my value judgments have been one of my biggest Achilles heel things. I don't know if that's the right term, but the biggest stumbling block in my life. And I couldn't figure out how to get out of that cycle of it. And my friend said this to me, because we'd been talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And she finally said, there's a difference between noticing what is and noticing what is, and expecting or needing it to be different in anything. And I think that's important, right? Like, oh, look at that person, she's doing that like that. Well, you can notice what is, but that final part of why is she doing it like that kind of thing, that's the wanting it to be different. And that's the judgment. And that, when she told me that, it really shifted how I was understanding where I was going wrong. And now I've been able to practice it more and more and more,
Yeah.
and allowing and judging myself or judging others. And it's a frickin' practice. And I was just I was away for a week, and having a heartfelt conversation actually with a new friend. And he made a comment to me about something he noticed that I did that another friend had told me a few months ago. And with the other friend, I had been able to walk through it and process it with her, and I cried a little bit, and I've been working on this thing. And then this young man noticed the same thing, and I was able to receive it with no, like, instead of like judgment, like, oh, I'm a bad person, I've got to stop doing that habit, blah blah blah. I said, thank you for noticing that. I appreciate your intuition, because I wanted to remind him that actually was very intuitive, because he'd have no clue what had happened with my friend. And then I said, I'm working on it. So thank you for bringing it to my awareness. And then I was able to move through it. Whereas in the past, that would have been a trigger for me, and I would have gone back to Victimtown. So that was huge.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
huge.
Well, and you're fortunate to have people that you trust and can express that to you from a place of love and
I had just
with
met this guy
kindness.
too. Like, I literally just met this
Right?
guy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. How
beautiful.
wonderful. Yes. Yes. Yeah, the witnessing and observing, the trying to make it different is the control factor, trying to force it to a different outcome, or having value attached to certain outcomes. We can also witness and not try to control it, but label it. And that also is a judgment that that I have been working on. Without the need to control it, it's still, oh, that's bad. That's that's not a good thing. Uh and those kinds of judgments too they're not helpful,
Yeah.
right? I don't know what that's going to mean for that person or what that's going to mean for other people. And I may say that's not a good thing, but maybe for them it is a good thing. I mean, how do I know?
Well, exactly. Something that's not good for me is perfect for you. So like I'm on my own mountain. How do I know what you need on your mountain?
Yeah,
I couldn't know. I couldn't know.
right.
So
Right.
it's
We're all on our own journey, or as someone that we both know and has spoken to us, it's our own walk, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's our only job, is to do the best that we can
yeah,
to work on things. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
and keep
love that.
going.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what would you like to say that you haven't said yet? What
Ah,
would you like the audience to know or your readers to know? I know that this book was written with such love. And it's just your heart, your energetic fingerprint, as our friend would say, is all over it. And it's so beautiful. What
oh,
would your
thank
final
you.
parting words be like to somebody that's unsure and like just about to begin this journey?
Um, be gentle with yourself and trust the process, and you have everything you need already.
I
I'm
love it.
working on a companion guidebook that I'm excited to launch in the next couple months, that will provide a framework for the readers to apply a lot of the things we've talked about here and that are written in the book to their own life and their own childhood and their own adult experiences and or current situation, um, to help them find their own path to Freedomville. Because, the path that I took and the path that you took, there are some, kind of well-worn paths, but there's no two exactly the same. Like there are no two people exactly the
Yeah.
same.
I
So,
love that. Well, it'll be a tremendous help to the reader when it comes out. I really look forward to that.
thank you. I hope so. That is my hope.
Well, that wraps up this series, going through your book, but audience, there's more to come. We're gonna start
Yes.
another series. We're gonna be talking about a whole bunch of different other things. So stay tuned. We'll have a flow though. No week we're not gonna go for weeks without another podcast, but I look forward to
Yes.
seeing it'll be just a fresh and new, which is like so apropos that the spring is here and like a changeover of a new cycle. So this part of it is done, and
Right?
the things that we'll be talking about, we can still relate to the book because this is navigating shitstorms after all. So
100%.
we'll always be
Yes.
circling back to the concepts that we've talked in the book and things that we've talked throughout the podcast. So it'll be good reminders as we touch back on all those things.
Yeah, and to stay in the loop, and know what's coming down the pipe, you can sign up at my website, lizlongwrites.com. And I think it might be called a newsletter, but it's not really a newsletter. It comes out sporadically, but that's where I will give my Freedomville seekers, as I call them, the first intel and scoop about what's happening.
Excellent. And what about Facebook and Insta? Are you on those too?
Oh yeah, all that stuff. Navigating shitstorms.
Okay, perfect. You heard it here.
It's
Well,
easy.
thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you next time.
Carolyn, thank you for hosting this. It's been a
Oh,
really fun, informative series.
yeah, it's
You've
been
been
life-changing.
amazing.
It's been life-changing
I
for me.
know.
So thank you,
I
Liz.
know.
I'm gonna start crying. So
We'll do
let's
more.
stop right now.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.